Good morning, everyone. This is Christy Johnson with Premier Marketing, and I'm here with Kevin Fisher of OneAmerica. Kevin is the Regional Sales Director for OneAmerica Care Solutions. He's been with the company for 6.5 years, but has nearly 30 years in the industry. He started as a career agent with John Hancock before moving into advanced sales with Chubb Life in 1996. He has been working exclusively in the brokerage space since that time, developing presentation and illustration software before wholesaling life insurance and asset-based LTC. And he also holds a CLTC and LTCP designations. And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin.
Hey, thank you, Christy. I appreciate it. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Can you?
I can, yes.
Okay, beautiful. So anyway, thanks for taking time out of your day today and joining us. I'm going to throw a ton of stuff at you. Hopefully, just one item will sink in and help create an opportunity for you to provide some solutions for your clients. On the screen, what you see right now is myself and my team at OneAmerica. I may get the credit of being the face of the company, but all the work comes from both Adam and Justin. And I'll tell you, they're great resources. As a side note, if you want to get in touch with any of us, you see our email addresses. Typically, you get quicker responses via email than via phone, especially if I'm traveling. If I'm traveling, you can call me and leave a message, or that's my cell phone, or you can text me. My only request is if you text me, you tell me who you are so I can respond appropriately. Anyway, this is your Care Solutions team. We are dedicated to providing you and Premier with all the support you need from front to back, and we aim to do a bang-up job. At OneAmerica, we've been doing asset-based long-term care for a long time. Long time being almost 30 years. Let me step back and say that segment of the industry is 30 years old. So if you do the math, you'll see that we are the grandfather of the industry, and there's only one other carrier that's got that experience. So we've seen a lot and we've done a lot. And one thing that we've found over time is, long-term care has evolved, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. And one thing that we found is, having that discussion has always been problematic. I've had the luxury of working with Harley Gordon a bit. He's only, an hour or so away from me, and he's a little bald guy, and I'm a taller bald guy. So we have some good discussions and about being bald, and also about how to move some solutions onto the table. And the one thing that I think is really relevant is, no one wants to talk about long-term care. It's not a pleasant discussion. Heck, some people have said death is a more pleasant discussion than long-term care because, it deals with infirmity and failing health and all that stuff, and it's a slow slide and all that. So we were talking, and we had a good discussion saying, where's the segue of everything? And it's really related to the health. And when you look at especially in an older client, the development of a life cycle, it really goes back to healthcare. So rather than talking about a long-term care solution, which is always in the eyes of someone undesirable, the focus should really be on a plan. And let's talk about your extended healthcare strategy in the event of something happening. What's that extended healthcare plan? When you say that, you take instantly off the whole perception of long-term care, and you start looking at, what does that mean? And your client's going to want to have a discussion, because odds are, unless they're in the industry, they don't know what that means. And the first question will be, well, what are you talking about? Well, extended healthcare is, what happens if something happens to you, compromises your health, and maybe you had a stroke, or you're active and you fell and you fractured a hip, and you go to the doctor and you come out and you still have to recover and you need help. What's our plan for dealing with that once you get back home? And our objective is to have a plan and a strategy. when we think about long-term care, we think about all of this. And this is from Genworth's Cost of Care survey this last year. The long and short of it, it's not cheap. And I want to point out one thing to you. This is average cost. So if you're on the East Coast or even the West Coast, the cost of care is much greater. If you go down to Louisiana, Mississippi, the cost of care is lower. But on average, these are the costs associated with different levels of care. I want to set a perspective that really should be sitting in the back of your mind. If we were to compare a private room to care at home, using these numbers, they look cheaper to stay at home. But there's one thing underneath that you need to keep in mind. That private room in a nursing home is 24/7. That care that you see here for care at home is not 24/7. That is part-time by a care provider that you're bringing into the home. So the net, if you were to have the same levels of care in a facility and at home 24/7, it's going to end up netting out the same. It's not to scare anyone, but it's just not an inexpensive proposition. Just setting the table on that one. But the one thing I want you to keep in mind, if you want a really good number, go to the Genworth Cost of Care survey. Dial it down to your zip code or state or city, and you'll get a good idea of what the average cost of care is for that facility. And, you know, if you're like me, my mom and dad are not going to get average care. So these numbers are going to be greater. My mom and dad have done a lot for me. They deserve something better than average. So, you know, I'm prepared to not have an inexpensive end run when we get to that point. Another thing I want you to keep in mind, and this is really relevant, is the cost of care is increasing, right around 3.5%. Here's what it would look like over a 20-year window of time, growing at 3%. And the one thing I want you to keep in mind is, do we have the resources to cover that? That's an important thing to remember. When you look at the durations of care, men are just over 2 years, women are just under 4 years, and cognitive impairments are about 8 years on average. Can we absorb that? And remember, the average is this. An average is a median, dead smack in the middle. So 50% of that group is below there, 50% of that group is above there. The problem is we don't know where we fall on that. That's the whole perspective of insurance. We're trying to protect against the short and the long, but more importantly, that long and catastrophic scenario. You know, let's step back for a second. Let's lead with a promise. Let's lead with a discussion and say, hey, let's put together a plan and figure out what we're going to do. If we know what we're going to do, then we can figure out how we're going to pay for it. That's step two. Step one is what? Step two is how. Most people don't get to that what discussion. And that's imperative that we have that what discussion, which is why I say change that discussion from long-term care to extended health care. We've come up with a great piece here. This originally came out of claims, but it's our step-by-step guide to receiving care. And it's a great planning tool. It's like 36 pages, and toward the back, it's got some great resources. And not only that, checklists of who, where, what, how, and when from a planning perspective. So I encourage you to get an electronic version or a hard copy version. Give Christy a call. She can set you up with it. Feel free to shoot me an email. I can send you the electronic version. You know, this is a great resource to have a conversation. I don't want to talk about product until we know what the real issue is, what the real concern is, and what our opportunity is for solving the problem. You know, a lot of people, when you start a conversation, say, I'm not interested in going to a nursing home or having insurance for a nursing home. That's great, neither am I. My objective of this discussion and our planning session is to develop a plan, a strategy with tactics underneath to keep you at home as long as possible and not make you go to a nursing home when an extended healthcare event occurs. That's it. Our goal is to keep people at home as long as possible, as long as they're healthy and safe and capable of staying there. And that's how planning works. We're working with them. Now remember this, everyone's got two plans. They have a default plan which is a plan of hope you don't get sick or hurt, and if something happens, someone's there and you have enough resources to take care of it. That's our default plan. A decision, a plan of decision really outlines how things are going to happen. And that's really the best thing, especially if we're working with clients that have any amount of money. Everybody's got to have a plan, because that default plan has also a default funding, which is everything that you got. Everything that you own is your default funding plan, which means it's going to be spent when it's spent, how it's spent, in no fashion or form. If you have a plan of decision, at least your funded plan will have some parameters around it. And if you have a plan of decision, at least you'll have the opportunity to say, hey, what of our funding sources here can we leverage so that we don't spend everything and expose everything and limit our opportunities? So strategy and having a plan that's both by decision and leveraged is the optimal way to go. But at a minimum, have a plan of decision. Oftentimes folks have a lot of money, and they may have one or more advisors. Typically, their accountant may, or even attorney may say, hey, they have enough money to self-insure. A couple of things here. Self-insurance doesn't exist because, there's no transfer of risk. The second thing to consider is, in the event that there's an extended healthcare situation, how are we going to pay for it? You're going to pay dollar for dollar, and what if it's a cognitive impairment? It runs 8 years. Can they absorb a hit of, let's just say, $1.2 million to that whole pool of capital that's generating their income? So self-funding is really the more accurate description. And can your client absorb the significant hit? Remember, on average, cost is not cheap. On average, men are 2.2 years, women are 3.8 years, and cognitive impairments are 8 years. But we don't know who's what, or when, or how long. That's why we put a plan in place. Here at OneAmerica, we can work with virtually any funding source to create a defensive strategy. If your client has cash, qualified money, or annuities, or their strategy is to pay as you go. From a funding strategy, we can work with more than anyone in the industry. We have two basic chassis. One is life insurance and the other is an annuity. That annuity is non-qualified. We're going to focus on asset care today. But let's step back for a second and think about a transition here. You got a plan. You're asking about what their strategy is to address an extended healthcare event. And they've asked them one question: how would we pay for it? And odds are they're going to say, I'll pay for it out of income, I'll pay for it out of my CD, I'll pay for it from my retirement money, I'll pay for it from whatever. When that client tells you how they want to pay for their strategy, you now have your segue into a leverage conversation. Because if my client says, I'm going to liquidate my CD that has $150,000, I'm pretty sure I can leverage $150,000 into a pool that's greater than $150,000. Or I can turn my non-qualified deferred annuity into that pool. Or I can convert income into a pure defensive pool. Or I can take qualified monies and translate them into tax-free benefit for long-term care. So if you ask that question, how are we going to pay for it, and you just listen, you may have your funding strategy in place for your new insurance policy that you're going to write from OneAmerica, leveraging an asset-based product. One thing a lot of people think of is, And this is, shame on us in the industry for bending the bar so far low, looking at I got to be young and healthy. Well, you don't necessarily have to be young and healthy. We'll write policies up to the age of 80 with asset care and 85 with our annuity care products. And when you get over 70, you got a few bigger dents on the door than you do at 55. And as the industry bent younger, we held our ground. We're willing to underwrite those older ages. Heck, we'll rate out 8 tables. And that's an advantage to us. If you have a decline from a traditional product, we may be able to work with it. Sure, we may fully underwrite it, but who cares? We're trying to put a solution on the table. That's one thing I want you to take away. If you have a challenge from an underwriting perspective, give Christy a call. Say, hey, here's what we're looking at. Maybe they're a controlled diabetic, a little short for their weight, been taking 2 or 3 meds. I sound like that term insurance commercial on Sirius all the time. But they're a challenge. They're a health challenge. Give Chrissy a call. Say, hey, I'd like to run this by OneAmerica. She'll get the information. We call it a pre-underwriting inquiry. Get that pre-underwriting inquiry to complete it as full as you can get it. The more we know, the better. We'll get it into an underwriter to review. Within a day, we'll know 2 things. 1, if we have a shot at considering them. And 2, what product or solutions may not be viable in that scenario. So at worst, we can say, okay, we have some shot, but we got no shot. We have a shot if certain things go wrong, and more importantly, what products may be applicable. So you got a challenge, especially on those older ages. Grab the phone, call Christy, get a pre-underwriting inquiry. We'll get an underwriter looking at it. That being said, you see here in front of you, we'll write up to the age of 80 or up to the age of 85 for our annuity care products. I want to stress this very, very strongly to you. If your client is over 70, then you must consider OneAmerica because we are very aggressive with our underwriting from a long-term care perspective. And we look for long-term care. So here's what we have. Some people say our products are complicated. Really, it's pretty simple. We have our base policy and our continuation benefit rider. That base policy is either life insurance or deferred annuity. That continuation benefit rider really is long-term care insurance. It's defined that way. It's filed that way in the States. So it's long-term care insurance. The way that it works is we buy our base policy. That sets our guarantees. The guarantees are minimum benefit paid out of the policy. It provides our cash in the event that the client wants to walk away. And it's our baseline for our long-term care benefit. So let's talk about this for a second. The client requires care. At first, you burn through your base policy through your death benefit. If you have a death benefit, and I'm just going to make up a number of $200,000, and your monthly long-term care benefit is $5,000. Month over month, you pay the long-term care benefit on a reimbursement basis. And dollar for dollar, that death benefit drops. Eventually, it erodes to 0. Once that becomes 0, we jump into the continuation of benefit rider, which is seamless. Our continuation of benefit rider can be one of 2 flavors. It can either double your pool from your base. So if we have $200,000, we have a $400,000 pool, or we can make it an unlimited lifetime pool. So we can do a lot of stuff there. So remember this, our policies are this: a base policy, life insurance, and a continuation of benefit rider, which is long-term care. And as I mentioned, the COB is defined under Internal Revenue Code as 7702B. Those premiums can be deductible. And other opportunities exist there as well, but long and the short of it is, our COB is long-term care. A couple of things I want you to keep in mind. Our premiums are guaranteed. Our premiums are guaranteed. There is zero risk at any point in time ever, once that policy is in force, that we can increase those premiums in any way, shape, or form. Asset care and the CLB are non-can. I can't say that enough. There's a huge difference between funding an asset care policy on a paid age 100 basis versus funding a traditional long-term care policy on a paid age 100 basis. Just making up the terminology there, so it's same. We are a non-can policy. They are guaranteed renewable, meaning that whole series of policies, whatever is in that policy year and jurisdiction, as long as they're all increased and approved by the state, can step up. We can't do that. What you see is what you get. From day one to day 101 to day 1,000,001. What you see is what you get from a premium. Premiums are guaranteed. Benefits are known and guaranteed. Those are two wins right there. You don't have to go in meeting your 80-year-old client, suited up like a hockey goalie, to protect yourself from the bludgeoning you're going to get when you tell her you have to have a 30% premium increase. Now, that being said, I'm not advocating dumping an existing policy, because oftentimes those premiums, even with that 30% increase, are better than a policy that you could buy today. But what I am saying is be aware of the situation. If you have a client that will be sensitive to increases down the road, do yourself a favor and consider every option and give them a choice. Guarantees versus potentially a lower premium, and you'll see in a moment what I'm talking about. You know, asset-based long-term care, regardless of carrier, works this way. What we're talking about is taking some money out of this portfolio and reapplying it into a defensive posture. In this case, we're going to take $125,000. Now, with OneAmerica, we can take that $125,000 in any way, shape, or form. We can do it as a single lump sum. We can do it pay over time. We can take it from a bunch of different assets and reposition them into a defensive structure. But one way, shape, or form, we're going to reposition $125,000. What we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a guaranteed pool of $250,000 and extend that out to an unlimited lifetime benefit from a long-term care perspective. At a minimum, we're going to provide $250,000 of value back to the client as either living benefits for long-term care or in the form of a tax-free death benefit should they never utilize it, or some combination thereof. Maybe they use $100,000 for long-term care, then pass, meaning that other $150,000 will be paid as a death benefit. You want more info on that? Give Christy a call. But regardless of this, we're making a promise. If you live and you need long-term care, we have tax-free benefits for as long as you need it. 2, we have a death benefit. One way or another, we're going to pay at least $250,000 in this example to that client, or that client's family, really. And 3, we have a cash value. We sit on a interest-sensitive whole life chassis, earning 4% guaranteed. At age 121, it'll end down. And the long and the short of it is, if you live and you need long-term care, if you die and you never use it or use some of it, or if you quit, you have value available to you. In one way, shape, or form, you have control, you have guarantees, and you have benefits. Our whole objective is to complete a defensive posture where there is minimum risk in our policy and maximum value to your client. We can accommodate 1035 exchanges, but remember this, if we're doing a 1035 exchange, we have to go single life to single life, or survivorship into a joint policy. And it must be a like-to-like transfer. Life insurance into life insurance, or life into an annuity. But you can never go with an annuity into a life policy. One thing I want you to focus on is that bottom item there. survivorship. We're the only carrier that can do a joint contract on an asset-based chassis because we have that patent. Again, let's talk about this scenario. I want to talk about funding solutions. With asset care, our base policy can either be funded as a single premium or it's an annual premium. Annual premium is being defined as pay over time, 10 years, 20 years, paid age 100. Those premiums can come annually, or they can do semi-quarterly or monthly as you would any life insurance or long-term care policy. Those same principles apply for that continuation of benefit rider. It can either be a single premium or an annual premium. I want you to focus on this right here. You see where that plus sign is? That means there are two separate policies. The life policy does not feed the continuation of benefit rider. Our peers have their policies, contracts commingled, where the cash value of the life policy is paying the cost of insurance for the continuation of benefit rider. We have two independent policies there. Here's what the advantage is. I can do single premium in these scenarios, not a problem. Base and COB, not a problem. Single premium, everyone does that. That's how this policy was designed originally. I can do annual premiums, as I mentioned earlier. 10 pay, 20 pay, paid age 100, annual, semi-annual, etc. Here's our advantage. I can do a single premium on the base with an annual premium on the continuation of benefit rider. Think about this. I have $175,000 of cash. I only want to move 100 into the base policy. Keep that other 75 where it's at. Maybe I'm withdrawing to basis in that scenario, and I'm going to move that into the asset care base policy. But over time, I want to fund my continuation of benefit rider. Maybe you want to do 10 pay on the COB because I still have some income coming out of it. I can do that. Our peers can't. It's got to be all or nothing. Or I can do the opposite. Think about this scenario. I have a small cash value policy, maybe $25,000, $30,000. That's not going to buy a whole heck of a lot of base, but it will allow me to pay up my continuation and benefit rider so I can get a lifetime COB. So maybe I'll do a 10 pay on my base policy, and then I'll just do a 1035 exchange into the continuation and benefit rider. That's all possible. Why? The Pension Protection Act, implemented in 2010, allows for 1035 exchanges from life or annuities into qualified long-term care policies. Those qualified policies are our continuation of benefit riders or our base policy here. And more importantly, any gains are now converted into tax-free benefit. So we can do that exchange. You want more information? Give Christy a call. I mentioned joint policies. We can do a joint contract. This is our advantage. Here are some rules of that. It's got to be within 25 years of each other. Both have to be insurable. And there has to be an insurable interest. Please note, insurable interest. It's not limited to spouse. It can be spouse, of course, parent and child, siblings, a domestic partner, former spouses because their insurable interest may be their child, or there may be a business interest in play. Maybe you want to do a key person, maybe it's part of a buy-sell. So that our insurable interest creates a lot of opportunity for positioning the policy. Think about this. Mr. Klein is 82. Mrs. Klein is 72. Joint policy. We utilize joint equal age. Even though he's 82 and that's outside of the parameters for an individual, using joint equal age, he's now 77 because their joint equal age, for 72 and his 82, is about 77. He may be able to secure an asset care policy provided that he's healthy enough. Think about that. That's pretty cool. Now you have to think about this. Husband and wife apply. He's declined. Still have the wife. Their daughter is 24 years younger than her. Great health. Mom and daughter are now eligible for the policy. Joint equal age. Let's say mom is 70 and the daughter is 46. Joint equal age. It's right around 60. Lower cost of insurance for mom. What does that mean? Less out of pocket, better benefit that for her. If mom never utilizes the policy, now the daughter has a choice. She can keep the policy in force, providing unlimited lifetime long-term care benefit, assuming it was built that way, or she can surrender the policy and take the cash value and do whatever she wants with it. It's her policy. You can do a lot of stuff with what we have. In some way, shape, or form, there is a benefit in the policy. Either it's tax-free or they can pull their cash and walk away. Sure, a taxable event may be occurred or incurred, my apologies, but there are options and solutions. Let's look at this example. This is a single premium example, but it applies to pay-as-you-go as well. This is a couple, they're both 65. On the right, you have Bonnie. On the left, you have Jim. Everything being equal, lifetime benefits. $100,000 a single premium pouring into the policies. If they were individual, she would have just $3,000 available to her. He would have $2,600 available to him both lifetime. And with a guaranteed benefit for him of $135,000 and her $145,000. But together, because of the joint equal age calculation, look at how much benefit that they have available for lifetime. Almost $6,000. People are better together than apart. Keep this in mind when you're building your strategy. Even if it's maybe a widow, say, hey, son, daughter, sister, if you can get a joint contract, we can get that leverage. That's a good thing right there. So look at the leverage. And let me point this out. Our lifetime benefit is a lifetime benefit. It's not 6 years. It's until they no longer need care. It's not 4 years. It's until they no longer need care. And it's for both insured. So both Jim and Bonnie can receive $59.48 per month per person. And they don't have to buy $1 million of life insurance and split it. They can buy what they need and buy long-term care. We are about long-term care. We're not trying to sell life insurance. We want to saddle up a guaranteed, predictable, stable solution. And that's what we do. That's what we've done. That's what we've always done. As I mentioned, that joint equal age is really important, and it provides a lot of leverage. Let's talk about a scenario here as it relates to funding on an annual basis. And this is comparing asset care 4 to a standalone product. There are some similarities. Your similarities are going to be monthly benefit, your elimination period, and your waiver of premium. We include that there. Those are our 3 givens in this equation. In this scenario, we're going to put our best foot forward. And remember, these clients are young. We're going to put our best foot forward and offer a lifetime benefit. In this scenario here, the best that the offer competing product could do was 5 years. Now, understanding that there are changes or have been changes and new players into the market, there are lifetime policies available on a traditional basis, but they're not available in every state. So that being said, this is why we've selected this. The second point that I want to make is premiums are guaranteed. And this is something I think is very relevant as it relates to a pay-as-you-go scenario. Stable, predictable, and guaranteed. We're stable, we're predictable, we're guaranteed. Zero premium risk. That standalone product doesn't offer that. This is our biggest value. Our biggest value is our guaranteed premium. Our second biggest value, in my eyes, is our benefit pool can never be eroded. You can say, hey, I get shared care and I can get 10 years. That's great. You can get shared care and have 10 years. Big deal. I can go unlimited lifetime. If we want to walk away, client at least walks away with a little something in their pocket. Sure, it's not all the premiums they paid in, but it's better than zero. Our minimum benefit guaranteed out of the policy is $125,000. That's the least we'll ever pay out, and it's known. Advantage to us, one way, shape, or form, they're going to benefit, guaranteed. That cost of ownership is surrendered. Look, who cares? To me, that's just a walkaway provision. Irrelevant in my eyes. Here's the big thing. The cost of asset care versus the cost for a standalone product is about $100 a month more. Value versus cost. Value versus cost. If you value unlimited lifetime benefit with guaranteed premiums, asset care will win hands down. That's your solution. So, I mentioned before, premiums are guaranteed, and I'm going to mention that again. Premiums are guaranteed. Think about this from an asset under management strategy. Would you rather move $150,000 to fund a defensive posture, or would you rather keep those assets under management for the maximum amount of time, earning higher returns, and over time, reposition a little bit, knowing that every year those premiums will be the same for whatever duration you want, 10 years, 20 years, at age 100. Stable, predictable, guaranteed, fits into the whole assets under management strategy. And it's a win-win. One way or another, we're defending the income. As I mentioned earlier, there's flexibility in the product. Depending on the structure of the company, you may have tax benefits. So if you have any of those questions, give Christy a call. She can get you our tax guide. We also have a trust guide that should be helpful in thinking of unique strategies for your clients. Remember, continuation benefit rider is 7702B long-term care, can be funded using an HSA. Only HSA dollars, not FSA or HR. Small cash value life policies I mentioned earlier. It can be owned in a trust. You don't recommend an ILITs, but with the way things have moved so much in terms of limits and taxes and all that stuff, we're seeing more strategies coming around, and we do have an advanced sales team. We can get you together with it. Golden handcuff, that's a great option for an employer. So you want to have a 10-year strategy, rather than dumping in $200,000, you pay 20 grand over 10 years. Bonus a little deductible. If you have a question, give Chrissy a call. or if you really want to get into a deeper conversation, we'll get one of our attorneys online for you. One thing I want to caution you, a lot of people say my insurance policy does that, my life policy does that. Not necessarily. If your life insurance is designated to be part of your plan for legacy or wealth transfer, how will the erosion of that, maybe $500,000 coming out of that plan, how will that compromise your long-term strategy? At a minimum, if you're going to use life insurance and have the riders on there, make sure that the primary goal, wealth transfer or legacy, is always met. And at a minimum, if you're going to go that route, buy more death benefit. But in reality, keep them separate, because the last thing you want is your client's son or daughter coming asking you what happened when they don't have a clue what the strategy was. Make sure everybody knows what's going on. Now, another thing my life policy does that, not all riders are created equal. Some are just chronic illness riders. And remember, those are limited in scale and scope, and they need to be permanent. So if your client has a stroke and they recover, that rider may not cover. Or if they receive care at home, that rider may not be available. Or if they're cognitively impaired, that rider may not kick in. So make sure those benefits are known. Again, do a little bit of homework, it's worthwhile. If you need a hand, let us know. We're here to help you. Qualified money, I'm going to walk through this real quick. We can accommodate qualified money. Simply, we can take an IRA rollover, pour it into our asset care product. Over 20 years, we reposition that IRA money into our life policy. It's going to be a taxable event. We'll generate a pool of long-term care benefits. This is using our home controlled environment. It's called Asset Care 3. I actually prefer another route. If you're going to use qualified money, I think you deserve to get the best leverage out of the strategy, in which case I would take that rollover, pour it into a SPIA, then fund Asset Care 4 over a 20-year period of time. Still, it's going to be a taxable deduction, but we're getting more lift in terms of aggregate benefit available to the client. So I'm still going to get that $250,000 and $5,000 a month for infinity, but I'm going to have a better pool of money on the IRA side. But in all honesty, my favorite way to go is dialing back to the basics. Maintain that portfolio and self-direct the funds. Move that $10,000 a year for 20 years, write the check, and have total control. Because in year 5, you may have inherited money. You might not want to pour that IRA dollar. Or take that IRA distribution if they're under 71.5. You want to use another asset as a funding source. So qualified money is a great option. But maintaining that portfolio, in my eyes, and using asset care on an annual premium basis is really the smartest and easiest way to go. Let's talk about underwriting. I mentioned this one before. Let's talk about how we get to where we get. If your client is height weight challenge, we can do a lot. We're pretty aggressive. If they have maladies that are ordinarily a knockout, we may have options. We do have 2 one-pagers, one for asset care, one for annuity care, as it relates to auto declines. If you want those, please let us know. Shoot Christy an email, shoot one of our guys on the team an email, Justin or me. We can get it out to you. It's good to know what the risk looks like going in. But suffice it to say, if they get over that hurdle, here's what to expect. Asset Care will always have a phone interview. Depending upon how that interview goes and the depth of maladies, we may pivot and have to order medical records, and on a rare occasion, a paramed exam. Remember, we can rate out 8 tables. If the client comes in at table 4 or better, they're going to be issued preferred. If they're a tobacco user, they will be issued standard. In both instances, we can still rate out 8 tables. That being said, none of our peers will go beyond table 4. Second point, with annuity care, you will never have more than a phone interview. And if we're only working within the annuity chassis, you're not adding a continuation of benefit rider, there'll be nothing more than 9 questions on the application. Long and short of it is, we want to make insurance available and find a way to get solutions on the table. We want to work with you. Your best resource is our Premier. Pick up the phone, talk to Christy. She can help you. She knows our stuff inside and out. She's as good from a resource perspective as some of our interns. Not Justin, he's a stud, but she can give you everything that you need. From an underwriting and case management perspective, we do have a lot that we can do. And here's what I want to share with you. If you have a decline, and you think it ordinarily should have been considered, I'm talking about a decline with not OneAmerica. You think that you have a case, do the pre-underwriting, get it into us, and see if we can make something happen. Now is a perfect time. So we're in November. We still have a few weeks to go. Now, where can we prime the pump for January? That being said, I've run out of time. If you have any questions, please feel free to let one of us know, let Christy know, shoot me an email, and we can get the answers for you. I appreciate it. Christy, back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Very informative. I always learn something new when I listen to you. With that being said, do we have any questions that you would like to ask? I'll give it just a minute to see anybody wants to type anything in. If not, please feel free to give myself or Rick Prusha a call if you just want to discuss the product, or if you have a client in mind and we can discuss it with you. From a personal standpoint, I have seen cases get through OneAmerica that I thought, oh, there's no chance, and they come through preferred. So please, if you have somebody that you think may be on the fence or will be a decline, give us a call. We can do a risk assessment and take it from there. So with that being said, I thank everybody for attending, and please reach out to us if you need anything. Thank you.